Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. For today's video, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the fragrance being worth it. Is it worth the price of admission? This is going to be a little bit of an abbreviated approach to this because I do think this is a subject matter that is better discussed maybe in a live stream because you could make some really intricate points around this subject matter. So I'm going to come at it from kind of a quick standpoint. So what I'll do is I'll give my thoughts on whether a fragrance is worth it or not from like the simplest form. And then I've got a list of fragrances here that, spoiler alert, I think they are all worth it, but I'm going to kind of tell you why I thought they were worth it, if you will. So we'll go ahead and do the first part of the intro. It's not going to take too long. Is a fragrance worth it? Ultimately, there's no magic answer to this. You kind of have to determine that on your own. I know that is not always the most popular style of an answer to something, particularly here on the internet. People want everything spoon-fed to them. But at the end of the day, I don't know what your pockets look like. I don't know what your budget looks like. I don't know what you're okay with spending. I don't know what type of fragrances you like. That is why I say it's something you have to figure out on your own. You need to know what you like, why you like it. Is it something you know you're going to use? Is it something you do get a lot of use of? If you've had a sample, did you run through the sample? That may make it worth it. And what's your price point, etc., etc. These are things you have to kind of figure out on your own and make up your own mind about. That's the abbreviated version. Now, what I can do in a live stream, and I probably will do later, is give a little bit more of my thought process on what makes a fragrance worth it and maybe give some pointers, some things to look out for. So again, that's gonna be a little bit too much for just a regular YouTube video. So now that that's out the way, got 10 fragrances here that, well, I mean, they all have varying price points, especially when you factor in discounters, but none of them would be considered cheap. And I'm gonna give my reasons as to why I think they are worth it for me. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get right into it. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get it started. Now, some of these are going to be more so about maybe the brand, more so than the fragrance I'm talking about, and then others will be talking about the fragrance in particular. So to start it off, we got one from Chanel, and this is Le Lion de Chanel. Le Lion de Chanel. So for this one, a little bit more about the brand, not quite as much the fragrance. Reason being is all of these, I think it's exclusive collection is what these are called. The higher end Chanel offerings. I think they're all run the same price point. I don't think there's a difference between them. It's just whichever fragrance you want to get, you're going to pay that price for. I did pay full retail for this bottle, and this is the smaller bottle, mainly because I don't think I needed the larger bottle. I will real quick. We'll go over what the fragrance smells like. This is a deep amber fragrance. It's kind of a spicy, labdanum heavy fragrance. There's like a splash of vanilla in there to kind of sweeten up a little bit. There is a little bit of citrus to brighten it a bit, but basically you're getting a labdanum heavy fragrance, which comes across kind of smoky, resinous with an ambery feel, as labdanum is an ingredient that is often used in amber accords. So that's what you're getting from this fragrance here. This is considered to be like the darkest tone-like fragrance from the exclusive collection with Chanel. So this here, when I first got my nose on this fragrance blew my mind. I knew I wanted this one, but there are some other ones from Chanel I also want. But as you guys know, very hard to get these discounted. If you do get it discounted, it's probably because you're buying direct from someone. Otherwise, you're probably paying full retail for this. I don't remember the exact price. I think this was $250 for this bottle. And I do think I got this before the latest price increases. I think they've raised their price since then. But the thing about it is, this fragrance really captivates me. I love stuff like this. I like heavy, dark amber fragrances. So for me, this was totally worth it. And when I bought it, I really enjoyed wearing it because it was really cold where I got it from. That being said, you got to make up your mind in terms of whether you think these are great. I will say this about Chanel fragrances in general, especially these exclusive ones. They have a certain character to them that's not going to be for everyone. So you do not blind buy this kind of stuff. You definitely get your nose on it first. And frankly, if you don't like any of the Chanel fragrances and don't think they're worth it, then they're not worth it. No harm, no foul. Once again, from Chanel, this is Le Lion de Chanel. All right, moving on. Next one's going to be coming from Dior. This is Dior Homme Parfum. Dior Homme Parfum. So to kind of focus on why this may or may not be worth it, one of the things I think I want to point out with this is it's better, in my opinion, to find out if this is worth it from the smell of the fragrance alone, which could be a little difficult. I don't know if you can get samples of this, but you can get Dior Homme Intense a lot easier and a lot cheaper. And in my mind, if you like Dior Homme Intense, there's a chance you may like this. But I know this was a blind buy for me, and really all the Dior Homme fragrances, the iris-based ones were. And this one here is heavier on the leather in terms of the iris. The iris is a little bit richer, not quite as sweet, a little bit more aggressive in that nature. There is some woody facets, some oud-like facets. I think there's also some patchouli in here. So this is like the heaviest iris version of those original Dior Homme fragrances. For me, I probably overpaid for this because I got this when it kind of came back in stock again on discounters, and it was like $190 something. This fragrance, I imagine people in the past paid way less for this scent, and it's probably not really worth that price, but I love that Dior Homme DNA, so it was worth it for me. All I'm gonna say is if you're kind of iffy on that powdery, lipsticky iris that the Dior Homme fragrances have, or any other fragrance that may have that kind of characteristic too, then this probably is not going to be worth it, or at least it may not be worth the risk of paying as much as you got to pay for this. And now it's probably even worse. I don't know for sure, but you have the new Dior Homme Parfum 2025, which is completely different. I'll give my quick thoughts on that. I don't think there's anything wrong with the scent. Is it better than this though? No, absolutely not. Is it worth the price? Absolutely not. If I were going to get it, I would definitely wait until it gets discounted, and hopefully it would get heavily discounted. That's my quick thoughts on that, but I do think it smells nice. And it's kind of what I really honestly expected from the release. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Again, comes back to the main point. You got to know for yourself, and sometimes you might just have to take a risk and live with the risk. Once again, from Dior, this is Dior Homme Parfum. All right, next one's going to be coming from Frederic Malle. This is Portrait of a Lady. Frederic Malle, Portrait of a Lady. And the reason I wanted to put this on the list is because, number one, this is just a 50 milliliter bottle of this. Does come in 100, but even so, at discounters, it's still pretty expensive. It's not like really heavily discounted. I got this with a sale, quote unquote, which was cheaper than I normally have seen it, but it was still expensive. So the whole point I'm kind of trying to make with this scent is for a fragrance like this, which by the way, this is a rose scent that is very, very spicy, heavy on the patchouli, a lot of clove, very, very dry and woody, very masculine smelling rose in my opinion, even though it's called Portrait of a Lady. But this is a scent DNA that I think is just not going to be for everyone. Could be a little bit polarizing. And even though this is a very popular fragrance, it's not worth the blind buy, especially considering the price. So the whole point I have considering this fragrance is don't buy stuff like this based on hype. Get your nose on it first. Make sure you absolutely love the scent, because even at discounters, it's still not cheap. Is it worth it? Is it worth the price of admission? I hope you love it, because if you do, it might be. Once again, from Frederic Malle, this is Portrait of a Lady. All right, next one's going to be coming from Arabian Oud. This is Royal Oud. Arabian Oud, Royal Oud. So this run here, the reason I wanted to put this on this video is because I was fully willing to pay full retail for this if I had to. The only thing is, I do know that Arabian Oud holds sales very often on their website or at their stores, and this one is often a part of those sales. So full disclosure here, my wife actually got this for me as a Christmas gift for last year, even though I was actually planning on buying it. Funny story, I actually did buy a bottle of it direct from someone for a much cheaper price than even she had gotten it for, but she already had it, so I actually ended up canceling that purchase and got something else. So I'm happy she got it, and I think she got it for the 30% discount. Point being is, I think this fragrance is like $700. I don't remember the exact price, but it's in that range, which means even at 30% off, you're still paying about $500 for it. This stuff is that awesome to me that I was fully willing to pay that price for it. I was planning on it. And this is a oud and rose and musk fragrance. It is very, very simple, but man, some of the highest quality stuff I've smelled in terms of those ingredients. Definitely by far the best oud rose fragrance I have in my cabinet right now, and it's not even close. So it was worth it for that reason alone. When I first got my nose on this stuff, I thought it was magical. So I was fully willing to pay the price of admission to have something this awesome in my collection. Once again, from Arabian Oud, this here is Royal Oud. All right, next one's going to be coming from Maison Crivelli. This is Patchouli Magnetik. Maison Crivelli Patchouli Magnetik. Now, it's not really a problem anymore. I think the hype from this fragrance has since subsided. People kind of know what it is by now. But I know people were blind buying this based off of how powerful the scent is. Oh, it's beast mode. So people bought it. And then they got it and couldn't stand the smell of it. Very polarizing scent DNA here. It's very particular in the way it comes across. Has this very interesting peach mixing with a very leafy patchouli and a lot of sweetness. It is not for everyone. I love the scent. The first time I smelled it, I didn't really care for it, but when I went back to it, I absolutely loved it. Knew I wanted to buy it, but at full retail, this was, at the time, it was like $280. I did not want to pay that much for it. I knew that much. I said, I want to wait till I can find it discounted. I'm probably going to have to wait a year or two, and that's exactly what happened. It finally showed up on a discounter for like maybe close to $200. It was over 200, but it was, pretty well discounted, and I was fully happy with that price. So even I didn't buy this until it reached a price point, or I could find it at a price point that I was comfortable with, even though I really do like the way this stuff smells. So that's just another lesson. If you gotta wait for something to potentially come down in price for it to be at a price point you're comfortable with, do it. Don't have that FOMO. Trust me, the fragrance ain't going anywhere, and if you get it a couple of years later, it's not gonna be less enjoyable in most instances. So once again, from Maison Crivelli, this is Patchouli Magnetik. All right, guys, next one's gonna be coming from Creed, and this is Silver Mountain Water. Creed, Silver Mountain Water. And this segment is a little bit more about Creed than it is about Silver Mountain Water in particular. However, I got a story to go along with this fragrance. So real quick, what is this? This is a very ozonic, bright, galbanum heavy, bitter green smelling fragrance. It's very, very fresh and also uses a lot of musk and as well as some tea. So it's kind of this icy, alpine, cooling tea fragrance featuring musk and some green notes. I love the way this stuff smells. This does have a lot of people don't really like it because of that inky smell. I would say if you don't like that inky smell, then go for the one from Armand. That's the clone of this. I forget what it's called, Sillage or something like that. Go for that. As far as I know, that doesn't have that inky smell if that's something that bothers you. The main reason I wanted to put this fragrance on this list is because, as you guys know, Creed fragrances are grossly overpriced on discounters as well as full retail. Good luck finding a 100 milliliter bottle under $200 or sub $200. The reason I have this fragrance is because someone did post it for under $200. It was our fragrance, and they posted it for like $192. And I said, you know what? I better go ahead and jump on it because I really do want Silver Mountain Water, and I want it for under $200. And I better just go ahead and take it, and I did. And guess what? It did sell out pretty soon after, and as far as I know, it's still sold out. And if they do have it, it's probably not under $200. So that's kind of the thing I wanted to point out with this fragrance here. Similar to Patchouli Magnetik, same thing. If you need to wait for a fragrance to come down in price, then wait, because it's probably not worth it to just jump on it at a price that you're not comfortable paying for. So once again, from Creed, this is Silver Mountain Water. All right, let's move on. Next one's coming from Parfums de Marly. This is Carlisle. Parfums de Marly, Carlisle. And similar to Creed, this is less about Carlisle specifically and more so about the brand. If you've been collecting for the last 2 to 3 years and buying fragrances off of discounters, and you've been looking at the prices of Parfums de Marly's fragrances, you know they have gone up substantially on discounters, and I believe they've even raised their retail prices once or twice over the years. So again, this is less to do about Carlisle, but I wanted to point out Carlisle because Carlisle has always been one of the more expensive ones, even at the discounted rate from Parfums de Marly. For the longest, I didn't even really want this fragrance because I found it did have enough of a similarity at the time to Red Tobacco for me not to want it. But that has since changed. By the way, what is this? It's a spicy, slightly fruity, rose-heavy, tonka bean, sweet fragrance. a little bit of an oriental feel to it. You know, it's super popular one from the house, a lot of people's favorite from the house. I do enjoy the scent, but I actually put off buying this for a while because the price had increased well over $200. It was going for like $220 on average, and I remember back, you know, before it would be under $200. It'd be close to it, but it would be under $200. Well, point is, I actually was able to get this bottle under $200 because I think it popped up on Joma Shop or something like that, and also it is a tester, to be fair, so I don't have the full presentation. So tester bottle, you know, I was able to get it under $200, so I just went on ahead and jumped on it because I did want this one in my collection. But it's kind of the same point. Don't overpay for stuff if you don't think it's worth it. Now, if you're crazy about this fragrance, like a lot of people are, then maybe it's worth just paying for it, whatever price you can get for it at the discounted rate. But again, you got to make that determination on your own. Once again, from Parfums de Marly, this is Carlisle. All right, next one's coming from Louis Vuitton, and this is Lovers. Louis Vuitton LV Lovers. And you know what? This is pretty much the same situation as Creed, Parfums de Marly, even Chanel. You know, the Louis Vuitton fragrances, I do think you can find them if you have a direct buying source at discounted rates. They'll sell it to you maybe at some wholesale prices, but in general, I don't think Louis Vuitton fragrances really show up on discounters, or you're gonna have to buy it from someone directly to get it at a lower price point. So with all that being said, that means otherwise you're paying full retail for it. And you know, there's a lot of people, frankly, that don't think these Louis Vuitton fragrances are worth the price of admission. And you know what? That's totally fine. I happen to be fairly impressed with quite a few of them, this one included. I did have to test this one to kind of convince myself that this was worth the price of admission. And I gotta say, I haven't been wrong about that decision. I've worn this quite a bit. It's a small dent because, you know, I wear a lot of different fragrances on any given day, but there is a dent in this, and I haven't had this for even 6 months yet, or maybe it's like right at 6 months, whatever it is. Point being is I've gotten a lot of wears out of this, and I really do enjoy wearing the fragrance. So it was worth the price of admission for me, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You got to make that determination on your own. And one of the best ways, in my opinion, always going to be the best way to determine if something is worth the price, you got to test it. Try the fragrance out. Try it on skin. I actually did that with this one because when I first sprayed this, first smelled it right off the bat, I wasn't convinced. It took me wearing it for about 30 minutes to an hour to decide to buy this fragrance. So once again, from Louis Vuitton, this is Lovers. All right, next one's going to be coming from Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and this is Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. Maison Francis Kurkdjian, Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait de Parfum. Now, kind of the same thing, but this one is a little bit more fragrance specific. I don't think that Maison Francis Kurkdjian fragrances in general are all overpriced. They do have different price points depending on the fragrance. I will say that I do think Baccarat alone could potentially be overpriced. Particularly this big bottle is like 700 something bucks. Now this is a big jumbo bottle, to be fair, and also full transparency, I didn't buy this bottle, my wife did. She went through the smaller bottle of BR 540 that we had, and I told her, like, well hold on, let me look on check the discounters for this, because it does pop up from time to time. We can get it at a discounted rate, but you're just gonna have to wait for it to come in stock. She didn't wait, she just went and bought it. So unfortunately, this is a full retail bottle, and hey, she was perfectly fine with it. But you know, that kind of makes the point. She was perfectly fine with paying full retail for this. Why? Because she absolutely loves this stuff. I love it too, but I don't necessarily like to wear it all the time. She wears it way more than me. And look, she tells me all the time, like, the compliments she gets with this are insane. That's from men and women. And honestly, is anybody surprised by that? This is known as a compliment getting scent. Just in case you don't know what it is, it's a very unique scent that makes good use of saffron in terms of a spice. A lot of jasmine. I think a really high quality jasmine is part of what makes this fragrance so expensive. It's a very just unique fragrance that for whatever reason just hit it off with a lot of people. Very popular fragrance, as I'm sure you guys know. But at the end of the day, is it worth the price of admission? Let's just be real. There's a lot of inspired by fragrances by this. There's a lot of clone fragrances. A lot of people probably figure that some of those less expensive options are just as good, if not better, than BR 540. But my whole point is, make that determination for yourself. If you feel this is good, is better than all those clones and inspired buys, then it might be worth the price of admission. If you don't, go for the other options. It doesn't really matter. Once again, from Mason Francis Kirkjohn, this is Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. All right, and to round out the video, we got another one from Arabian Oud. This one's called the Rare Oud. Arabian Oud, the Rare Oud. So I think the last time I kind of touched on this subject matter before I had this fragrance on there, because this is a good one to kind of illustrate why you don't just buy stuff because somebody talks about it. I don't know if anybody's even bought this fragrance from me talking about it on the channel. If you have, by chance, let me know in the comments. But, you know, this is an awesome oud fragrance that features Thai oud. And it's just that. It gives you a real nice picture of what that particular type of oud can smell like. And it has its own note breakdown. It has a spiciness to it, kind of similar to what I would consider to be cardamom and coriander. It's got this interesting kind of plant resinous feel, almost like tree sap, kind of a natural sweetness to it. And then this kind of barky woodiness to it that's not really smoky. It's just kind of dry and smooth and not overbearing. Stuff really smells interesting. But this is a 30 milliliter bottle, by the way. I don't know if you can see it. You can see it. That's where the juice stops. So there's only 30 milliliters in here, and this stuff costs $450. So that is very expensive for a small amount of juice. I got my nose on it, I tested it out, and I bought it. So this is kind of to reiterate that point that if you get your nose on something and it does something for you to where you feel like you gotta have it, then it's probably worth the price of admission. I have no regrets buying this stuff. I think it is amazing. And I don't feel like I have to hype it up on the channel either. I don't mind talking about it when it is appropriate, but I certainly don't encourage people to just go buy this because I think it's awesome. It was awesome to me, so I spent the money for it. And if you got a fragrance like that maybe nobody even knows about, but hey, it's awesome and you think it's worth the price of admission, then it was worth it. Once again, from Arabian Oud, this is the Rare Oud. Alright guys, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you would, please put down in the comments below some fragrances that you think are worth the price of admission. And you know what? They don't have to be expensive. Just put something down that's like, you know what? It don't matter what is going on in terms of how my collection is coming together and all that. I gotta have that bottle in my collection because it is that special to me. I want to know what you guys have to say about that. So thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.